thermostat on this Gen 4 Viper really isn't that big a deal to change. The hoses aren't too bad. I didn't get a great video of it, but the lower hose is kind of a wrestling match. I had to kind of climb under the car and get splashed with antifreeze. Of course, I drained as much as I could properly and disposed of it properly, but some still inevitably will leak. One of the things you have to decide when you buy the parts is what temperature thermostat. So the factory is a 185, and that thermostat, Mopar, is $350. So don't get that. I went with a 180. You could go with a 170 or a 190. It's up to you. My car likes the 180. It runs perfectly fine. As for the hoses, I went with silicone hoses. These are made by Mishimoto. They fit great, and they were $240. The rubber hoses are only about $20 or $40 less, so I just wanted these. These are supposedly going to last forever. So when you look up parts for this car, you're going to see a little rubbery gasket that's got a circle and a octagon or square kind of shape at the bottom. That is the thermostat gasket. The little round thing they call a seal actually goes around the barrel of the thermostat. And I wouldn't get that unless you need to get it, like it's damaged when you take the thing apart. You can get it commonly at O'Reilly's. I'll leave the part numbers somewhere on the screen. In order to get to the thermostat, you got to take off the air cleaner assembly. That's all I did here. Of course, I already drained all the antifreeze out of the car. I did that with that vacuum sucker that I have. Just unbolt this like a normal thermostat. It's real easy. It's got 4 bolts. You can get to them pretty conveniently. Now, you do have to remove this heater hose like I'm doing here. Kind of wiggle it off there. It's kind of tough. Then the thermostat will be able to come out. But like I'll show in a second, you also have to remove the accessory drive belt. I just wanted to show you exactly how I did that. You have to take that tube off for the heater core. And then once you take the belt off, you can kind of wiggle it out of there just like you saw in the video. It's really, really tight. So just know you got to do that. It's kind of a wrestling match, but here it is. All you have to do to change the thermostat out of the housing is pull it straight out and it'll just pop right out. Now make sure that seal isn't damaged that I was talking about. Sorry I didn't get in a video, but it's very obvious. It's just right in there. You'll see it. And also change that gasket while you're doing it. Just pull it out with a pry tool. Be careful not to get on the aluminum too much. You can damage it. And then just push the new one in. Again, it's very self-explanatory if you've messed with anything before in your life. Okay, after wrestling that in there, I made sure the gasket didn't wiggle out of place. I'm going to clean these bolts up and put a little bit of anti-seize because it's going into aluminum. Just don't want them to stick because I may be doing this again at some point. When you tighten these down, don't go crazy. They're very, very small. And no, I didn't use a torque wrench. It's not that critical. That's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to go far at all. It just goes on like a regular hose. No big deal. Just tighten down the clamps. Now that everything's bolted together, all that's left to do is fill the expansion tank with antifreeze. It uses a special HOAT type antifreeze. I've already mixed this with distilled water. G05 is acceptable. If you read the standard on the back, it'll say it is HOAT, and fill that all the way up and kind of let it fill its way back into the system. This holds about 4 gallons of antifreeze. So if you want to be real accurate, measure what you take out and then put back in the same. But I guarantee you'll have some air bubbles, which is why on this car, it has a bleeder. Now, the older Vipers were notoriously hard to bleed, from what I understand and have been told. This one wasn't too bad, but over a few days, I did have to crack open that bleeder. A little air would come out, and then antifreeze would come out. You can do it while it's warm, just don't be stupid and like put your head over it or something. But after a few drive cycles, it just calmed down fine. Now, the first time I ran it, I made sure I watched that antifreeze level, left the cap off it while the car warmed up. Don't take the cap off when the car is already hot. And then just kind of opened the bleeder and made sure everything was good. When I got that 180 thermostat, I noticed the needle was running right about where my fingertip is. And I thought, that seems kind of low, like it's running cold. Well, in reality, that's about 180 degrees. If you look very closely, that mark is actually about 185 or 190 for the factory thermostat. So if you put a 180 in and you think it's running cold, don't worry too much. But then again, you could still have air in the system. And if you have air in the system, just keep cracking this bleeder open from time to time over the next few days you drive it. and eventually it'll work its way out. I hope this was helpful, at least some, just so you can see that it's not a difficult thing to do. I haven't seen any other videos about a Gen 4 Viper thermostat install, so I figured I'd make one. But yeah, it's not really that big a deal. All in all, it probably took me about an hour and a half to do everything, and I changed the hoses too. So if you're worried about doing this on your car, it really isn't that difficult. You don't have to take the intake off or anything crazy. It's just unbolt it, and there it is. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. I gotta go clean this mess up. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.